or global, affecting women from everywhere.
My name is Amber Jensen, and I am, gotta stop and think about my age. I feel like I've aged a lot since having that PPCM baby. I'm 37, and she was my third baby. I had twins that were great. I went full term with them. I didn't have any problems. So this baby was quite the opposite. She was born at 30 weeks. It was just a really rough pregnancy from the beginning. And I was like, geez, I carried twins. Like, this should not be this difficult, right? I shouldn't be feeling this horrible. And the last 2 weeks before I gave birth to her were just awful. I just kept getting more and more swollen. I was just retaining water and getting winded walking upstairs, just like walking 10 feet, you know how it goes. And just each day was just worse and worse. And then the last weekend before I had her, I just had this like awful pain in my neck and my back, and I just couldn't sleep. Like, it was just, afterwards I learned that they thought that was from the fluid that was on my lungs. So after the weekend of no sleep, the last night before I went to the hospital, I couldn't breathe. Like, every time I'd lay down, as I listen to other women's stories and stuff, I think, oh my gosh, like I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't, and I finally called my best friend at probably 4:30 in the morning. My husband was asleep, but she has worked in the hospital setting as a CNA for a lot of years. And so I called her up and I said, I don't know. I think maybe I should go to the hospital. I just don't feel good. Like, I don't know. But I was really hesitant to go because at 21 weeks, I had gone in. I'd had this like sharp pain in my back and felt awful. And they didn't find anything at that time. And it only happened that one time where this issue had happened. So I was hesitant to go in, just questioning, doubting myself, how you are when you're pregnant. Do I really need to go to the hospital? Do I not? But she said, have you taken your blood pressure yet? And I said, no. And she said, I'll be right down. So she hopped in the car. I called my parents. They came down to be with the kids in case we needed to go to the hospital, my other kids. And my friend took my blood pressure, and it was like 200 something over something. Like, it was really high. And my friend looks at me and she's like, get in the car, we're going right now. So I thought they would just say I had pre-eclampsia and that I would just maybe be put on bed rest. So I get to the hospital. They call my doctor to meet me there. She comes and talks to the other doctors, and before I know it, this team of doctors are coming in and they're saying, we're life flighting you to another hospital because you're going to give birth today. And I was only 30 weeks.
Wow.
And it just was terrifying. And, just thinking, I'm only 30 weeks. Is my baby going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Why do I have to be life flighted instead of by ambulance? So it was really scary. And, it just, once the life flight team came and were prepping me, and but the nurses there were great. The life flight nurse was so comforting and just held my hand on the helicopter ride and just really took care of me. And
that's amazing.
And so we went and had an emergency C-section, and she was born at 2 pounds, like 14 ounces, just a tiny little thing. And I didn't get to hold her right away, you know, because they were trying to take care of her and keep her alive and all of that. And that was the hardest thing, was just I got to go roll by her little NICU and just put my hand in from after giving birth and just touch her for a moment. And then during recovery, I just felt worse and worse. And I would lay my bed down and I was like, I have this tightness in my chest. And every time I lay down, I feel like I can't breathe, like I'm gasping, like this. I can't breathe, something's not right. And they were giving me Lasix for the fluid already because of the pre-eclampsia. They were trying to get that extra fluid off of me.
Right. So they was basically treating you for just the pre-eclampsia. So they never expected anything.
So they hadn't caught that yet. And I think it was on day 4, they finally said, well, maybe we need to get an echo on you.
Okay.
But they were busy, and so they didn't do it that day. And then finally, they came in the next morning. Finally, they were like, hey, we really do need to get an echo on her. You need to bring that in. So they came and did that. And then all of a sudden, there's this whole other team of doctors, heart doctors, cardiologists. And, you know, I'm just in there trying to deal with it. My baby was just born. She's in the NICU. I can't hold her. I'm trying to pump, you know, and that just, it made me so sick to pump because I already felt horrible. Right. And so I just, but once they finally decided to put me on meds, I did go with the choice of not continuing to breastfeed or pump. My body just couldn't recover with the stress of trying to recuperate and take care of that. And that really, I think, helped that I was just able to focus on the baby. And with my other 2, I wasn't able to breastfeed them for very long either. I just did never produce enough. So it kind of helped make that choice for me because I decided not to continue that with being on the meds. And every woman has her own opinion and her own choices on that matter, but that was best for me in my situation. So yeah, they finally came in and diagnosed me, saying all these big words like, well, we think maybe it's this, but we're not sure. We want you to come in 2 days after you leave the hospital. I went home on oxygen because I just couldn't catch my breath. But that was nice. I didn't have to be on that for very long. I recovered quickly with that. But I did the genetic testing and there wasn't that marker, and they weren't sure because I had the baby so early. They were saying, you know, well, we're not sure it's really PPCM because it's not in the last 4 weeks of your pregnancy or like after. So they were kind of unsure if they were going to diagnose me with that. But in the end, they did decide that was the most appropriate. And I feel like I did have it kind of before the birth because of that. It's hard to know because I know a lot of the sisters in our group had also pre-eclampsia with it. So hard to kind of know what was pre-eclampsia, what was the heart, when did that actually start? Was it after birth? You know, but I really was fortunate that my doctors were guided to giving me an echo and didn't just send me home. They could tell I was not feeling well, that something was not right. So I was very blessed, and I know some of the stories that they're not as fortunate, that hospitals believed that they were feeling that way and stuff. So and afterwards, going to the cardiologist, and it would feel really weird going into the office because it was a heart failure clinic, and there was all these elderly patients and everything, and there I am, 35 years old, this young person, and it just felt so strange being in there. And this practice, they change doctors frequently. Like, you don't always get the same doctor. But I've learned in this last year, I discovered which doctor I prefer and which one I really molded well with. And I've learned to advocate for myself. And when I go in there and I, say, is this doctor here? I make sure when I schedule my appointment that he's on for this schedule. And at first, it wasn't like that when I went to the office. They just were kind of like, well, you just got to take who you can get. And then probably a year in, they kind of switched how they were doing things there, and we're more open to that, of you trying to get repeat doctors and have kind of the same one as often as you can. So in the beginning, that was frustrating. But once I started advocating for myself, that I found the doctor that explained things to me the correct way and really helped me understand what I was going through. It just made all the difference. And when I was open to hearing that, just the way that he explained things, so, and it's been a rough road to recovery. We all know that we can have days which are just, I get really tired some days still, even though I've been really fortunate that my ejection fraction has recovered. I'm in that low recovery stage with that. But, some days it still just hits me, even though it's 2 years out and I'm got a recovered echo. And so.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just so glad that you was able to get the diagnosis, because with now finding out that preeclampsia can be a link to PPCM, is like crazy, because it's like, well, you would think we would have found out about PPCM along with preeclampsia, or why wasn't the two connected in the beginning, when preeclampsia was known as common, or but now that we know that, to watch out for the women who do develop preeclampsia, because maybe later on they, may have some sort of condition or PPCM, maybe a higher risk of developing PPCM. Were you in your previous pregnancies, were you diagnosed with preeclampsia, or have you ever been diagnosed? So it was just the first go round. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
My first pregnancy was, I went full term, and I didn't have any sort of issues like I did with this little one. So
yeah, our special PPCM babies.
Yes, and every time a doctor, and I'd get a different doctor or different, what are they called? The nurse practitioners. They'd all come in, and every time the first thing out of their mouth is like, now you shouldn't have another baby, right? Like every single one. I'm like, right? Thank you. Yes, I have been told that. Yes, it's been discussed with me. You don't need to tell me every time I come into this office.
Wow, yeah, that just can be disappointing. We're already trying to heal and get over this.
And this emotional journey, and and then
right. Yeah. So that's why it's good to have these conversations like this, because it makes the public aware of what's really going on and what's really happening, which is why I wanted to open up like our stories to the world, so people can see, look, this is not rare. Okay, we know it's called rare, but really it's just, unrecognized and misdiagnosed. So we're trying to change that by bringing our stories out and being able to welcome the doctors in and the scientists in to learn more. While we're learning about COVID, we can learn about PPCM too. because we that's a mixture in itself. COVID can mess with the organs and the heart and the lungs. Is okay, PPCM. So how do you know that the woman is experiencing COVID or is she experiencing PPCM? So it's like it's good
Hmm.
to make that awareness. And I just really thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Our hearts
You're
being
welcome.
there. Yes,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you again. All right. This is where we're gonna end our
Update my 2-year-old. She is doing great. We were really blessed that she was only in the NICU for 6 weeks. And you wouldn't even know that she was a preemie. She's just doing really well and
yeah,
has
that's
developed
good. That's
quite
good to
normally. And so we've been really blessed with that. So she's doing
Amen.
well.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that as
Yeah.
well. Thank you. That is important. And then I know like even with the NICU babies, they come out so strong. Like, I have a few in my family as well, and they are super babies, super kids. So it's like, yes, they're gonna grow up and just have that special anointing in the world. Thank you again, Miss Amber, for sharing
Yes.
that. Is there anything else you would like to share or want maybe a doctor to know or a patient that may be?
Just from seeing, because of my situation, I was really careful. My best friend had a baby and she was having some heart issues. And so I went with her to her doctor's appointment and I made sure I asked those questions and I said, you give her an echo. It turned out not to be PPCM, other heart issues with the blood pumping and everything, extra blood. But, I was really cautious and really just listen to your patients. They know their bodies and they know that when there's something not right, that trust your patients, that they know their bodies. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much again, Miss Amber. All right, we're gonna end our session for tonight. Hold on just a minute. End us out. All right, everybody. Wait, hold on.